We got married September 27th, and we found out we were pregnant probably the end of October. Really quick. Yeah, it works. So then we miscarried December 4th. That was pretty hard. We weren't expecting to be pregnant, so it was kind of a shock to us. I don't know. How'd you feel about it?
I was not as exuberant as I probably could or should have been because it was so soon. It was unexpected.
Yep.
And then when it ended in the miscarriage, it was really made it worse, I guess. We were, pretty sad. Melissa was kind of down for a while. Yeah.
And surprisingly, Erik said, let's start again right away. Let's try again. And I was like, what? And then he got a new job. So then we decided, well, we'll just leave it to God's hands, and whatever happens, happens. And then we found out on Easter that I was pregnant with Zane. So I was really excited. I thought, this time it's going to work. That's a great sign. So I was very excited. He was born November 30th of 2009. I went in the middle of the night because I was having contractions that just wouldn't stop. And they said, oh, you're probably just dehydrated. And I was like, they're not stopping. So we went in the morning to the clinic, and Dr. Allred checked me, and I was about it at 3, and he said, let's go have a baby. So by the time I got to the hospital, they checked me again, and I was at a 5, and it went pretty quick from there. So
Yep.
It was exciting. The delivery came really quick. He came fast. In the delivery room, Ron and Carrie came up to see us, and I just remember they had Zane on the little bed where the light is, and he was laying there with one leg up in the air, and he wouldn't put it down. He just had it up forever. I just thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. My dad had a bond with him that was pretty special, and it started right away when my dad walked into that room, and he just became immediately protective of that boy, and why do they have that light in his eyes? Get that light out of his eyes, and get this blanket on him, and he was just hovering over him, and it was pretty neat to see that relationship grow as it did over the 8 weeks. They had a pretty special bond.
Yeah.
It represented more than just a baby, I think, for us.
It was, I think, uniting our family together. It brought us closer together. It connected Samantha and Joseph, all of us. It connected us somehow. It's like he was a missing piece of our puzzle. It was something I wanted badly, which is kind of funny because on our first date, Erik said, if you want any more kids, we better stop now. And I was like, okay. And then after I got him hooked, I said, let's have a baby.
Wore me down.
Yeah.
But it was, it's something that we had together. We both come from previous broken marriages, and we have children from those marriages, and this was a bonding for us. It kind of brought our family together, and we were really looking forward to living our lives out with Zane and our other children. And I think my initial reaction was just how beautiful he was. I just thought he was one of the most gorgeous things I'd ever seen. Yeah. And he was just almost had personality and character right away.
Some of my favorite things would be when he sneezed.
Yeah.
Because he didn't just sneeze once. He literally sneezed 10 times in a row. And at the very end, he'd go, after every time. That was really cute.
Yeah. You could just tell when he was hungry and when he was cold. He wasn't afraid to let you know. He was very vocal. Made a lot of noise. But he slept. When he would sleep, he was just out.
Zane passed away, I would say, technically, January 23rd of 2010. I got up because Zane was crying and Erik had to work in the morning, so I got up with him like I always do. I fed him and changed him, and I took him upstairs and sat on the couch with him and just held him in my arm over here. And just a little while later, I just remember looking over at him, and he wasn't moving. And I just got really panicked. I tried to wake him up, and he wouldn't wake up. And I just picked him up, and I carried him downstairs. Said, Erik, Zane's not breathing. And that's probably not a great way to wake up. I just remember him jumping, what? Call 911. And I was on the phone with the ambulance right away. And
Melissa and Joey were out waiting for the ambulance. I was doing CPR, performing CPR on Zane, and Sammy was there and, witnessed that. And I remember weeks later watching her do the same thing to her baby doll. And
she was doing CPR.
Right. And saying probably the same thing I was saying, oh God, oh God. And I think that's when I realized that she'll never forget it.
Joseph had a lot of trouble sleeping at night. He wouldn't go to sleep. He'd tell me that the room was spinning, and he'd want to stay up and talk to me, and I'd have to lay there with him until he fell asleep. He didn't want to go to bed for a long time. He thought that it was his fault for a while because he was jealous of Zane because of the time that we spent with him. And then he also thought for a little while that we killed him. He didn't really understand everything that was happening. When Zane stopped breathing, they sent him to the hospital, obviously, and from there they sent him by helicopter to Wichita. They got his heart started again, so in my mind I thought, oh, he's going to be okay. That wasn't the case, but we didn't know that. So we spent a couple days up in Wichita, and while we were gone, I believe Erik's family drew close together. Sisters that he has that haven't, I don't know, they're around. They love each other very much, but I know his sister Heather stepped in and helped Ron tremendously, more than I think anything. I think it helped heal that relationship, and it brought Ron and Heather closer together. Their family just came together, really worked well to help each other out there. When we were in the hospital with Zane, we were there for a couple days, and they had to run different tests to see if there was any blood left in his brain. And they did a test, and there was a little bit of blood left in there. So I just remember just praying for some kind of miracle that he would wake up, because he was on life support. His heart was working as long as the machine was breathing for him, but his brain wasn't working. It was like a light switch. It just shut off. Once it goes off, it just never comes back on again. And I guess I was praying for a miracle, and I just remember singing to him while we were there. I sang, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. And I really believed God was going to make a miracle happen and let him wake up when I found out there was just that little bit of blood in there in his brain. But I knew too when I looked at him and raised his eyelids, he wasn't there. He was already gone. So in order to do what they needed to do, we'd have to wait another 24 hours to repeat the test. So we had to decide to take him off life support and let him go. I remember in the room when we pulled him off, we held him and we sang praise to God. I remember Erik lifting him up to the sky, just giving him to God. And I held him until he got cold. And then I had to give him back. And then it's just like, now what do we do? Just get in your car and go home now.
I'd be a liar if I said I wasn't angry at God when we were at the hospital while we were still waiting. I just remember thinking that it wasn't right. And that God must not hear me. I know the thing is, I was angry with God, but I knew He was there. I knew He was there with us. We were surrounded by our family the whole time.
Good friends.
Yeah. When we knew it was over, and we took him off the life support, I just remember this almost a primal ripping.
Walking away from him and walking down that hall was, I think, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I've lost family members, sibling, parent. Nothing can even touch the hurt of losing Zane. I think they should have a place there where you can go into a room and you can scream at the top of your lungs, or you could hit something really hard. Because how do you do that with other kids all around you up and down that hall and other parents in there worrying about their children? There's no place to do that. There's no place to let that kind of stuff out. Just the intense pain that you feel inside. There's nowhere to let it out. But I'm a stuffer, so I just kept it in here until I just collapsed. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just fell to the floor and just cried, and you just want to stay in bed. You don't want to get up. But then I knew that I didn't want the depression to kick my butt. I was going to get up, and I wasn't going to let it take over me. I got up and rode Ron's bike for 13 miles, and then I read, and I read, and I read, and I read, and I read about S.I.D.S and about everything that I could find out about it. I don't think they give enough information about it. When they come to do your home visit, they tell you that, how to put them to bed and how to dress them to make sure they're warm, and don't put them in your bed and all this stuff to do. Make sure there's a pacifier in their mouth. When really, they need to separate the two completely, because putting them to bed the right way and putting a pacifier in the mouth, that's great. It'll help prevent suffocation and asphyxiation, but it's not going to prevent S.I.D.S. There is absolutely no prevention for S.I.D.S. It's either going to happen or it's not, and there's nothing you can do about it. And once it happens, it's it. Like I said, the light switch, it's off. The brain will never come back on. They'll never breathe again on their own. Never. And I don't know that a lot of parents are aware of that, exactly what happens when S.I.D.S strikes. In the book I read, some of the parents were doctors themselves holding their child in their arms when it happened, and they can't bring them back. Other stories I read, the babies were in the hospital with monitors and everything hooked up to them when it happened, and they cannot bring them back. So I want people to be aware of that. It's hard as a parent to have a baby and not worry about that. But it's something they should be aware of, because I know for the first couple of weeks I was blaming myself. What did I do? Did I dress him too warm? Maybe I shouldn't have laid next to him. Did I suffocate him? What did I do? What did I do wrong? Did I kill my child? And come to find out after reading all this stuff that it wasn't my fault. So I think they really need to get that word out there so that parents aren't blaming themselves, so they know that they're good parents and they love their child and they didn't kill their child. I think that's very important for people to know. I know it's scary, but they need to know. I'd rather know I didn't kill them than be scared that it's going to happen. And I know that if we ever got pregnant again, it would be very scary. But at the same time, if we do, I want to be at a point where I can trust God to know that it's either going to happen or it's not. And that baby is only going to be mine for a little while, because he wasn't mine to begin with. You know, he belonged to God. And if and when he takes him back, that's all part of the plan. And I think that in a way, Zane's death saved my life, because I always had a faith in God, always. But I always wondered, really, was there an ark with lots of animals on it? Really, did it rain frogs? I mean, come on. But after Zane died, I read books by Josh McDowell, Case for Christ, More Than a Carpenter, The Unshakable Truth, stuff where these atheists go out and they try to prove Christianity wrong, that he wasn't who he said he was. And in reading all that, it just brought me closer to him, because I saw all the evidence there was for him. So it just brought me close to him. And then I still struggle. I have my days where I miss him like crazy more than anything. That's a piece of my heart that I'm never going to get back, you know. On those days, I just keep telling myself it's only temporary. You know, I'll see him again. When I get there, he'll say, "Hi, Mom, I've been waiting for you," and it's going to be great. And I know he's having a party right now and he's loving it. I also know that God had a plan for him, and God's using him in a big way to save lives, to save relationships. God used my son to save other people's lives, to bring people to Christ through his testimony. I've seen it happen. I see it still. Even if people don't believe, a seed's been planted, and it makes them wonder, what if? Just maybe there is something about it, you know, just to know that something was planted there so that they can have the hope that I have. And in a way, I feel really honored that it was my son, that God's using to do that. I feel really honored in that way.
I started seeing God at work almost right away after Zane died. And maybe even more importantly, I started to feel God at work in me in ways that are maybe hard to put into words, except that I knew that right away, as soon as he died, although I was torn, I also had a peace. And I knew that peace came from God. I knew that peace came from the prayers of all the saints around us. And I think what that meant to me is that I knew that God hadn't left me. We had both in our lives prior to being married had some struggles and some hard times, and there were doubts in my mind. Not that God loved me. I knew he still loved me, but I thought he had removed himself from me in some ways. I didn't feel him like I once did. And after Zane died, I knew he was there, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. And I knew he wasn't just there with us, but that he was there with me. He loved me. When we lost Zane, in my opinion, God stepped in. And he became the glue that held us together. They say that these things either drive you apart or they pull you together, and thank the Lord, in our case, I think it's pulled us together. I think we're closer now than we ever were before. And I think that applies not only to Melissa and my relationship, but the relationship that I have with Joey as a stepfather, stepson, the relationship with Sammy, I think, is closer now. And that's only because of God. There's no other thing that could have done that. I think he used Zane's life to heal relationships too.
Yeah.
There were some relationships that prior to Zane's birth, were just, for lack of a better word, just broken. They were just broke. And after he came, it was pretty amazing to watch the healing that came about, that transpired. And I think it had everything to do with him. God had a plan for him, in his life and his death. It's taught me that every moment of our lives is important. Everything that we have gone through has been important. Every year of our life is important. 8 weeks is so important. That 8 weeks that he was here, he did amazing things.
He touched more people in 8 weeks than I probably did my entire life.
Yeah, but every moment of our lives is important. This moment right now is important, and we shouldn't let those moments pass us by, thinking about things that we ought to do instead of doing them.
Through Zane's life and his death, I read and I read and I read, and I hung on with a death grip to God. And the verse that stands out more than anything in my life, I just want to bless his name no matter what happens, in good times and bad times. And Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. They are plans to prosper you, not to destroy you, but to give you a future and a hope." And I know that's what's happening in our lives. I know he's working. I can see it. I can feel it. And I just want Zane's life. I want other people to look at that. And I want other parents that may have experienced this to see that there is a hope, there is a purpose. And I want other parents to know about S.I.D.S so that they can be aware. I want them to know what could happen, not what will happen, but what could happen, and what they can do about it, and how they can help fight against it. I think about everything that's happened. I have a peace because I know that when Zane went to sleep in my arms, he got to wake up with Jesus. How much more could you want for your child if they were to go than to go like that? I have all the peace in the world because I know he went from me right to God. So I'm blessed that way. That's what Zane has done for me. It's given me a hope. It's brought me closer to God. It's opened my eyes to see how real it really, really is. Without a doubt, I know he's there. Not one doubt in my mind. And I just want as many other people to know that as possible in my lifetime, so that maybe someday I can make that same impact on somebody that he did while he was here. I want God to use me now. Use this situation, this horrible, painful situation, to glorify him. I want people to see that. I don't want them to say, oh, there's Erik and Melissa, I feel sorry for them. I want them to see the hope that we have because of what's happened.